All right. I think we're live on both Facebook and Instagram, and hopefully with no problems. Okay. So we're gonna get started. Sorry we're late. Lots of technical difficulties in trying to get this working, which I should have done ahead of time. So my apologies. I am Jhazzmyn Joyner, founder of the Joyner Foundation and director of communication, and here to kind of moderate and ask questions and all of that is my grandmother. So I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I am Inez Joyner and I'm off camera, which is fine with me. Now, with the Joyner Foundations, I am the Human Resource Director and also the Treasurer. So I'm looking forward to talking with you. All right, thank you.
Thank you for being here. We'll go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
All right, now, Jhazzmyn, I want to get going with asking you, when did you first start putting your pen to the paper and writing?
That's a great question. So I think my earliest memories of writing, I remember writing like lyrics, like song lyrics. And I don't think I ever thought about it as like this is poetry, but lyrics I would say are definitely poetry. There are lyrical poems. And so my earliest memories are of me doing writing those songs on when I was younger and making music. And so I don't think I really intentionally started writing songs. I mean, not writing songs, but writing poetry until I got to high school. That's the earliest memory I have of actually writing poetry, like intentionally, where I knew that like poetry is what I was writing.
Got you, got you. Now, were you inspired by someone or something?
That's a great question as well. I would say I don't know that I would say I had like one kind of inspiration. Yeah, my dog's passing by. Sorry. I don't know that I would say that I had one thing that like inspired me because like I said I never intentionally wrote poetry. Everything that I did was kind of a one-off. So I remember in high school like taking English. I've always had like great English teachers. I had a teacher named Mrs. Lightfoot, and we'd read like Edgar Allan Poe, and I liked dark romanticism stuff. Don't ask why. Maybe I was like a dark, troubled high school person. But I liked Edgar Allan Poe, and I liked a lot of his poetry. And I always like reading poetry, particularly if I could understand and access poems, because not everything is easily understood to me. But I do like the dark romanticism and reading poems, and then getting older and just reading. I've been reading like Raina Biddy and different poems by different poets and stuff like that. So those are the things that kind of things that have continued to inspire me and that have helped me with I don't know, getting into poetry. But I wouldn't say I had one thing or person who's like, this is my inspiration.
Got you, got you. How about a favorite poem or favorite poet? Now, you happen to have mentioned Edgar Allan Poe, but is there anyone else, a poem or a poet?
So yeah, I did like E.A. Poe. I would definitely say I studied abroad in 2019, and I took like a European intellectual history course and came across William Wordsworth and fell in love with his poem Phantom of Delight. So that's one of my favorite poems. Like, just imagine someone feeling that way about you that he felt about the woman in that poem. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it. Great poem. So that is something that I do love. That's another poem that I love. I don't know that I have a favorite poet. Of course, like I said, I like Raina Biddy stuff. I like Amanda Gorman, of course. Trying to think any other poets I like. I don't know, probably some others I'm forgetting, but those are some that I really like.
Do you occasionally have someone ask you to write a poem for them, or they give you a topic?
Um, I've People have given me topics before, I guess. I've asked for topics, and people have given me topics. No one's ever come to me and said, hey, write a poem about this, or can you write a poem for me? As mentioned, I do music, and there have been times where people have asked me to write a song for them, or write a song with them, or to sing on a song, or something like that. But I've never had that happen as it relates to poetry. And I'm not even sure that, as of now, I am, at that space. But I definitely think that one day I would like to get to that point of maybe doing that for people. Maybe it's like gifts that they give to others. But I don't know. I'm not there yet.
Got you. Now, in terms of the process of publication, by the way, how many poems have you had published?
Oh, in life or recently or?
Given that you're young, and I guess when I'm looking at my age, okay, just either way you want to go with it.
Okay, I would say in life I've had, let's see, my first ever poem I did in high school. It was with the Wren's Nest, and I still have a book. It's a literary journal, and my friend was working with the editors there, and so she was like, submit some poems, and I submitted one, and one got accepted, and then they had like this event at the Decatur Book Festival where they got a room and people came and like read their poems. I read a poem there, and we had like a book signing. It was really cute. So that's the first one I think I ever got published, and I do still have that book. I got another one in high school was my poem that was displayed in the Kennesaw State Holocaust Museum, and I won second place for the high school division for that, and I was encouraged to do that by a teacher. Then in college, early college, I self-published a couple of poetry books, so that's another 2. I had something on display in the Colk at Georgia Tech when I was in college, so that's 5. And then recently I think I've had 4, so maybe a total 9. I had a lesson in art history posted on the Harness magazine, a Paragon of Love, and Eve Poetry magazine. I had Metamorphosis published in Blood Moon Journal, and then most recently I had my poem She is a Black Woman displayed at the Waterfront Library at Hawaii Pacific University, and I won first place for the written artwork that was submitted for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, it sounds like you've had some success. I hate to bring it up, but we're keeping everything in perspective, right? Do you occasionally get any rejection?
Oh, all the time.
What?
Come on, girl. I'm sitting around here talking about rejections all the time. But of course, and as I talked about in my poem, in my blog that I wrote about me dealing with my rejections in poetry and all of that, they do come more so than acceptances. I have a string of rejections for every poem that was published, so it is truly, truly a victory when I get one published, because I do go through a string of rejections, and it is difficult. More difficult than I ever dreamed or imagined. And there are times where I feel discouraged or like I shouldn't continue to be a poet. Like maybe it's not really all that good, and like I don't want to do this anymore because I don't want to deal with this. But then it takes that one yes to kind of drive me and keep me pushing forward, so to speak. And I mean, poetry is art, and art is subjective, which is what I always say. And so maybe someone doesn't like it, but then someone else will. So you never know what's going to touch someone and what's going to, pull at the heartstrings or really make them like, whoa. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Now, do you have a favorite poem you've written?
Of all the poems I've written, all 9, I'd probably say my recent 2 that have been published. I mean, there are like quite a few that I like that I've, never seen the light of day or have not seen the light of day yet. But of the ones that I've published, I would say I have 2 favorites. She is a Black Woman and a Paragon of Love. I love She is a Black Woman because it's like an ode to Black women everywhere. It's a message to love self. Even, the world throws all of these derogatory things at us, and other people may not like us, or, we get a lot of hate from various people. I think it's really a way to say, love self, like, we are magical, Black girl magic, that's truly a thing. And I felt power in writing that poem, and I'm excited to read it because like it'll be fun to read. And then I would say A Paragon of Love is one of my favorite poems, and it's really, really special to me because I wrote it about two special people, some neighbors. And so that poem is one that I really love, and I went through a lot with that. That's probably the hardest I've ever worked on a poem. Um, but I think it's just so, so sweet, and it was an honor to write and to be inspired in that way and to know that true love still exists in a world where that's kind of hard to find, in my opinion. So
Now, I understand from what you're saying later on, you're going to share some of these poems with us. Is that correct?
yes, so I
All
plan
right, so
to do,
hang on now because we're going to get them toward the end.
yeah, I plan to do She's a Black Woman, A Paragon of Love, and then Metamorphosis, which have all been published. I think those are my most well, okay, yeah.
All righty. Now, speaking of when you're writing these poems, is it just kind of you get it on the paper and it's okay, or do you kind of go back and forth? What do you do with revisions, or is it this is it?
As mentioned, A Paragon of Love went through quite a few revisions. The hardest I've ever worked on a poem because I was just, well, it went through its series of rejections, and then I was like, well, let me rewrite it. Like, I really want this one to go out. But also, that when I wanted to do the couple justice, I wanted to accurately and I wanted to accurately show the love. I wanted to show the beauty of the people as individuals and as a couple, and I wanted to set the scene. So that one went through quite a few different versions and revisions. With other poems, with all of my poems, it really just depends. There's some, like She's a Black Woman, I think I revised maybe once. Then there's some that I've never revised. So it just really depends.
Now, the fact that you're writing, is this a lifetime journey or hobby? What would you call it?
I would love for this to be a lifetime thing that I do all my life and get better and hone my skills and all that. I don't know that I would say it's like a career thing, but it's definitely a great hobby, and I love, when something gets published. Like, it makes me happy. It's not something that I'm doing for money per se. I mean, I have been compensated in various ways occasionally for my poems, but not always. But I like putting it out there and, having it published.
Mm-hmm.
It's very official for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you ever see yourself maybe conducting workshops to help other people get interested in their writings?
I don't foresee it not in the near future. Like I said, I'm not there yet. I've been doing this maybe for like 6 months, and I have a long way to go. There's so many things that I still want to do. Like, I would love to take work, like, be a part of workshops, and I am taking like a couple of online courses. But I would like to do more and like learn more and read more poetry and stuff, without changing my voice, because sometimes I feel like you can dive deeply into something and lose your sense of self. But I do want to learn more, hone my skills, become better at it. So I don't see me doing that in the near future, but maybe one day, who knows?
Right, absolutely. Now, what do you do when you do get published? Is there a celebration or a ritual that you go through or do?
That's a good question. I don't have any type of ritual now. Maybe I should get one, huh? I just kind of feel happy because, like, I worked hard on this and others are getting to see it, and I just feel this sense of great and deep pride in that. So no, I don't have any type of like thing that I do, but maybe I'll figure out one.
Now, are there certain topics that you pretty much lean toward, or are you all over the place?
I would say I pretty much always I do a lot of like love and heartbreak stuff. That's probably the biggest thing. Which, I mean, I feel like that's pretty common. That's common emotion we all have felt or will feel, or love is when we hope to feel, heartbreak is when we hope to escape. But I think they're both kind of pretty inevitable, maybe. And it doesn't always have to be with like a lover, or like someone you're in a romantic relationship with. You can experience these feelings with friends, family, whatever. I've written a lot about growth and a lot about myself and nature, and so I'm trying to get into various topics, and I do use prompts occasionally and things of that nature. But I would say mostly heartbreak and love.
Thank you. What makes you love a poem that you've run across and read?
Oh, great question. I think if it's accessible to me, if I can understand it, I think just if I read it in that moment, I have a connection with it, then that for me is good enough. Like that makes me love a poem. Like, oh, I felt something like this resonated with me.
Then let's look at the opposite. What makes you not like a poem at all?
I would say just something that's hard to read or understand. I don't know. I feel like sometimes things are a little bit too flowery, or a little too complicated, where you have to go digging in the dirt to figure out the meaning of it. And I don't know. I don't tend to like those as much. I tend to like something, I guess, pretty straightforward for me. But I mean, it can still be beautiful and flowery and understandable.
Now, I understand you have an Instagram page, is that correct?
Quoted by Jhazzmyn, which I also have a Facebook page of that as well.
Tell us about it.
And that's QUOTEDBYJHANE. And I post a lot of my poems on there, particularly my Instagram one. The Facebook one, I try to update as often as I can and as often as I remember. So I started that probably when I first started, I don't know, writing, trying to get poems published. I think my friend started her page first, Pen by J. That's JAE. And she inspired me, and the page kind of took off rather quickly. I met people from all over the world. I've done collaborative pieces with people, which has been fun. I've posted prompts. I've used other people's prompts. So it's really been very interactive, I think. I've hit a kind of block with my writing and just feeling like, I don't know, pressure and writer's block and things of that nature. So I haven't been on it as much, but yeah, good stuff.
All right, now, what advice would you give to aspiring poets?
I would definitely say keep writing. There will be possibly, potentially, most likely rejections, and maybe not everyone's gonna love your writing. And I read this thing by Ava DuVernay the other day where she was just like, you're not gonna be great at writing at first, but keep writing. You'll get better, but the only way you'll get better is if you keep working at it, like honing your craft and working on that skill and continuing to do it, even in the face of adversity, or when. Especially in the face of adversity, actually, those probably make some great poems. But just keep writing, keep trying, keep working at it, keep doing your thing. Don't lose your sense of self and your sense of voice.
When you're not writing, what kinds of things do you do?
Ooh, that's a great question. I do a lot of things. I'm always running errands, playing with my dog, spending time with family, friends. At least, not in a pandemic, but prior to, spending time with family still. I did like to travel before. I like to take walks. I love taking walks. I'll sit outside. I'll play the guitar. I'll write. I'll sing. Well, you said when I'm not writing. I'll write songs too, though. Excuse me. I'll sing. I'll do schoolwork. I'm in school. I'll do work. All types of stuff. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate the things that you've told me about. Are we going to hear some of the poems?
Yeah, I think you had 2 more questions for me.
And what were they?
Probably on the back of that paper. The other one. Hi, buddy. Hi.
Are you reading anything interesting right now?
I haven't really had time to read. I've been kind of working through the Raina Biddy poetry book, as mentioned. And then I've been doing some, I love Kristen Rockaway. I've read all 3 of her books, and she has 2 more coming out this year. And so I'll probably get those. But I haven't really had time to read for leisure lately. I would love to get back to it, though, make time for that. But, yeah.
Is there something that you do or see that inspires you to write?
Something I do or I see that inspires me to write. I'm inspired by life, really. I'm inspired by everyday things. she's a black woman. Like I said, was inspired by black women. A Paragon of Love, inspired by a couple. Metamorphosis was inspired by my own, what I was going through the pandemic of dealing with depression and things like that. And having faith that, I would come out of the other side. I'm inspired by myself and things that I feel. I'm inspired by other people. I'm inspired by the light in other people and the love in other people and nature. I'm always inspired by nature. It's a wonder what sitting outside will do. I'm just inspired by so much all the time.
Those things do. Any time of the year that you like more? Well, we got the 4 seasons. Is there a season that tends to kind of grip you or anything?
I love fall, and I'm cool with spring too. I actually like winter okay, but sometimes it can be a little bit brisk. Yes. Summer's just too hot for me, so probably would be my least fave. But
Well, I'm delighted to see you doing a lot of writing because I really love almost everything that you write. They're inspiring. Honest. And what happens is that you paint a picture. And
let me ask you, what's your favorite poem of mine that I've written? You can do one that I haven't published and then one that I have published.
All right, I really like the Paragon of Love. I like them all, and they're like, when you hear a new one, you think, oh, this is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Can I possibly get anything any better than this? Then another one rolls out, and I become certainly inspired by that particular one. Love to see you writing. And speaking of writing, and to your listeners, can any age start writing? Can I start?
Writing is for anyone. There is no age on it. If you love writing, if that's something that's therapeutic to you, because I realize it's not to everyone, go for it. Like, write your heart out. Writing is very therapeutic. You just don't even know what kind of emotions, what kind of feelings you can get out on a page, and what kind of beauty you can create through words.
Yes. And what about journaling? Because that's pretty big now. Would you recommend that same thing? Just start writing something.
Just start writing. If you want to write, if you like to write, if you're maybe thinking about writing, if you want to see what it's like, just start. That's all you can really do.
Now, did you start sharing right away with people, or did you pretty much keep your books and your thoughts to yourself? What kind of writer were you?
I think, like I said, I was thrown into it, sharing, because of like teachers or people who would say, write a poem for this, like this, we're doing this thing's coming up, so maybe you'd be interested, write a poem for this. So like being thrown in it that way. So I think my poems have always been like on display.
Mm-hmm.
But of course I write stuff for myself. I have books of poems, and a lot of them have never been seen, and I don't even like everything that I write. So that's a thing too.
Alrighty. So do you go back though, like let's say you have one that you've written maybe a year ago, and you go back to it and maybe you didn't like it, but you start over? Does that even happen? And say, okay, it's not as bad. I didn't do as badly as I thought I'd done.
Yeah, I think that's happened sometimes. And or I'll go back and rework something, and say, maybe I needed some work here. Kind of give it like a tune-up.
Got you. Anything that I didn't ask that you want to share and talk about?
No, I think I'll get to the readings if that's all right.
All right, that's fine with me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm going to read them in reverse order. So I'll start with She is a Black Woman, which was which was published most recently. Which has been published most recently. She is a Black Woman. Again, this was on display in the Waterfront Library at Hawaii Pacific University. And I got first place for the written artwork submitted, and I went to their virtual event, which was interesting because they're like 5 hours behind us, and their event was at like 10. No, their event was at 5, so it was like 10 here, and it was interesting, but it was cool. So this one is She is a Black Woman. The sun kissed her skin, leaving remnants of golden flakes that made her appear as though she'd been dipped in honey. She was glowing. She was blessed with shoulders broad enough to carry the weight of the world, which she did humbly and with grace. Gifted with full lips, she spoke her truth with conviction, unapologetically. Her wide hips, a helping hand to bear her legacies and leave her mark. Her kinks and coils reached proudly toward the sky, serving as her crown. She is royalty. She's granted a sharp mind, a presence of strength, and a nurturing spirit, for without her the world would not turn. She is handcrafted meticulously by the hand of God. She is a black woman.
Oh, how beautiful. And
Thank
as you were reading that, I thought about my mom, my grandmother, my grandmother's mother. And then I could see you, so this is generational.
Generational. I mean, it just speaks to black women everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Black is beautiful. Black girl magic.
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Wow.
Now, Paragon of Love. This one has a couple of versions, but I'm going to read the one that was published, which is the narrative version. And this one's published in ePoetry magazine. I think if you go to epoetry.com and look me up, January 20th, 2021. So that's when it was published if you want to go read it online. Certainly one of my favorite poems and one that means a great deal to me. So here's a Paragon of Love. I sit in my yard atop the withering grass beneath a bare tree. Winter's been brutal, yet she offers us this serene, divine day. Birds sing love songs in perfect harmony like they invented the score. The sun's beams pour through the branches, showering me in comfort. But I realize it's not the sun I see or feel. It's the warmth of an astonishing couple. The love that radiates off of them outshines the sun. I try not to watch for long as they leisurely stroll through the neighborhood, and truly, I don't have to. What they share is enough to leave a lasting impression. He holds on to her so carefully, I could have mistaken her for a porcelain doll. She's stunning and delicate, yet powerful. Man couldn't have made her. Because he's fully aware of her strength and independence, his protection is far from overbearing. It's that of safekeeping. He listens to her intently and gazes at her with care. Then he whispers a prayer to heaven. Please make this last forever. I believe he's been heard. She's childlike, frolicking about. I don't think she's even aware of her behavior or her remarkable glow, that of a woman in love. She doesn't say much, but you can see tenderness in her diamond eyes and gentle smile. I never experienced love like this, the kind that you can see and feel from miles away. The waves of emotion wash over me, overcoming me at the realization of this rarity. I feel both despair and hope. Despair at potentially never finding love like this. Hope at such inspiration. Maybe one day I'll have this kind of love, unconditional and without hesitation.
What a couple.
What a couple.
And how beautifully you got it on pen and paper.
Well, I did my best. Like I said, went through a lot of revisions with that one. So that one was my labor of love, but one that I genuinely enjoyed doing. Lastly, I will read Metamorphoses, which was published in a Blood Moon Journal back in December. And you can just look them up at Blood Moon Journal, and they only have one issue, so it was an honor to be selected for their very first issue. Yes, so Metamorphoses. Excuse my dog. He barks at everything. Okay, let's go downstairs. Let me close the door. I'll stand for this one since I'm up, huh? I found myself retreating, going into hiding. Sorry, guys. Let me stand back so you all can see me. I found myself retreating, going into hiding, something like animals hibernating in winter, or a caterpillar preparing for a season of growth as it settles into its cocoon. Winston! Sometimes you gotta give them a little tough love. I found myself retreating, going into hiding, something like animals hibernating in winter, or a caterpillar preparing for a season of growth as it settles into its cocoon. I found myself in a place where I was stagnant, and as hard as it was to live through this uncomfortable moment where I was being shaped and molded, it was also empowering to know that a renaissance was coming. Chapter 2 was being meticulously painted, and a beautiful final product was in the works, like a piece by Michelangelo or Raphael. But I had to start off in the dark first. I was a baby in the womb preparing to be born again, having to go through these phases and stages of growth before I could be brought into the light and the world of infinite possibilities. Now, here I am. A new moon after going through phases, the version of me that the world has been waiting for, wiser, brighter, and better than I was before.
Beautiful as well as the others.
Thank you. Well, that is all for me. Thank you for people who dropped in and the people who will view it later. You can definitely leave feedback under these videos, and it was an absolute pleasure to do a live reading for you all and to talk about poetry and rejection and writing, which is definitely a love of mine. And thank you for moderating.
No problem. I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, y'all be safe. Thank you. Let's do one at a time. Let's see. In these videos.